the sauce, Alexander.
This is Watts.
Make sure you like, subscribe, Ring General Podcast.
And don't forget to subscribe to the Ring Generals, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter.
Absolutely.
Do it, or I will get you.
And you're watching the Ring General Podcast. Turn this man around. Turn this man around. Subscribe, like, and comment.
But raise a glass in the sky and salute the Ring Generals.
That's right.
Welcome, everybody, to the Ring Generals Podcast. I am Nick Nenad. Alongside me is Eazy-E Eric Santos.
What's cooking, guys?
And, of course, my main man, Jesse Chaparro.
What's cooking, yo?
Guys, we have a huge show for you today. Two major topics to discuss, and you guys know what we're talking about. We're combining wrestling and MMA on today's podcast. We have to talk about UFC 257. Jesse and I, before the podcast got on the air, said it was the two most surprising wins we've seen in a row like that. So us as the Ring Generals, we are surprised today, and we are down to talk about what happened at UFC 257, including Conor McGregor's loss to Dustin Poirier. Later in the podcast, we will get into the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. This is obviously the start of WrestleMania season, a WrestleMania season like we've never seen it before. So plenty to talk about, plenty of unknowns in both MMA and UFC. But before we get into the actual podcast, we want to thank everybody that watched our content and followed our content last week. By the time this video is about a day old, we will likely have over 1,000 views on two different videos pertaining to our content last week. So we wanted to get right back on here for you guys to get you more content, to help out the page. If you're returning, if you're one of those people that first checked this out last week and one of those people that helped us last week, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, comment. All that does, it helps you see our content more. It helps the YouTube universe see our content more. It's a win-win for both of us, and it's free. So no reason you can't do that. Comment what you think, who you think Conor McGregor should fight, who you think Dustin Poirier should fight, Michael Chandler, and tell us who you think our Royal Rumbles winners should be. That's the stuff we're going to talk about, but we wanted to thank you guys for that. And if you need to follow us on anything, all of our stuff is in the description below. Guys, how are we feeling, right? UFC 257, Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler's debut, Dustin Poirier getting the big win. Eric, I'll toss it to you first. How you feeling on this cold Monday afternoon in California?
Oh, first off, I felt like, and I know me and Jess and you, Nick, at first when we ordered pay-per-view, it felt like we were about to get cheated because what happened? I mean, the ESPN servers went down, or what happened? I missed my girl Amanda Rivas fight, and I heard that she got knocked out. I didn't see it. I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but I mean, I guess all of us had problems trying to get the pay-per-view underway. But other than that, man, I mean, it's a good thing that we got it resolved. But wow, one hell of a night. And, you know, as much as I know we're going to get into the Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor matchup, but I would like to say, man, what a debut Michael Chandler had. That was one hell of a debut that he made against Dan Hooker, beating one of the best and just clipping him in the first round. Yeah, damn. I got to say, Michael Chandler is here to stay. And what a promo he also delivered, too. I guess you can say also DC was making a nod about Ric Flair, paying homage to Ric Flair. So I felt that, too. But, yeah, I think, like, the highlight of the night, other than just Poirier winning, Michael Chandler making his debut into the UFC. Yeah, but, yeah, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Jesse, so this was I'll tell you this, when I went to go bet on these pay-per-views like I usually do, I usually have a DraftKings or a FanDuel lineup going because I've had success in the past, and I'm getting to know a lot of these undercard fighters a lot more just doing this podcast in general. This was a great card, even from the first fight. For like it was the hardest I had to pick. It's why I ended up getting the last two fights wrong, because I think I put so much effort into the undercard. But Jesse, not only was this a great two main events that we were set up for, but this card in general was great as well.
Oh, it delivered. It delivered as promised, as Dana said. So I mean, look, everybody had their doubts on some of these fights, but no, this card was perfect. And like he said before, it might be the most watchable pay per view in its history. So um, hats off to Dana, man. He delivered. Except for the streaming. The streaming killed us.
Right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, no, it's funny. It's funny. So I didn't even know that you guys had dealt with that too. I
Yeah.
was like,
I know.
I can't. I had a couple people over here to watch the fight, and I was like stressing because I'm the host. I can't get the pay-per-view up for the first
Yeah.
fight. Luckily we started looking at Twitter and like Reddit and saw that we were not the only ones. Apparently it was just a West Coast issue,
Yeah.
according to Dana White, so that's why we were affected. So hopefully it's resolved. And for the Kamaru Usman Gilbert Burns fight, hopefully, it's back to normal. But I might take a look at some of these illegal streaming sites since they were a little bit more reliable than the UFC and ESPN Plus and Disney and whoever the hell else owns
man.
these companies.
That was the bait. I think Dana White did that on purpose just to see how many people can go on to the streaming websites. I don't know, but I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
I was telling Eric.
Yeah.
You know what I was telling Eric? I was like, you know what? Dana White made us pay $80 just for the prelims, nothing else. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I feel like I got cheap.
I know.
A lot better.
I know.
I'll say this: I did a lot better on the prelims betting than I did on the main card. Holy shit! I got Chandler wrong, I got McGregor wrong, and I got Hebot wrong. All three of them.
I only got one right, and that's Chandler. Chandler delivered
I got Jessica I. Jessica I got wrong too. I picked her to win.
Yeah.
Just fuck me,
Mm-hmm.
I think I actually got all of the undercard fights right, which was pretty crazy. But yeah. So, but let's get into it, guys. Obviously, we'll talk about Eric. You brought up Chandler first versus Hooker. Not much to talk about with the fight necessarily, but man, was I surprised that Michael Chandler was able to actually do that to Dan Hooker. I knew he had a right hand. But, again, what I had mentioned, and I disrespected Michael Chandler a lot because I disrespect a lot of the Bellator guys, the competition over there isn't as good as it is in the UFC. And so when Michael Chandler's knocking a lot of these guys out, a lot of these guys are not UFC quality fighters, or they're UFC kind of undercarders. Like they're not great fighters. And obviously there's the controversy with the Patricio fight. He really didn't get knocked out in that fight, but then again, even in his top fights, he hadn't looked the best, at least recently. So going in, and then you saw the height difference. Holy hell, when they were standing next to each other. And just, I disrespected Michael Chandler. I will back off a little bit. It depends on who he fights next. But, man, respect to him. And I don't think the big question coming out of this, was this the best debut ever in UFC? I mean, in recent times, absolutely. It was Ben Askren, who didn't even win that fight that he won.
Oh, with
so
Rob.
I don't. Yeah. So this was really, really impressive. Jesse, I want you to talk about, because you knew a lot more about Michael Chandler coming in. What did you think about this? Were you surprised? And then also, what do you think's next for him?
I was just surprised on that fashion that he put on Dan Hooker, how he knocked him out. But I knew he was going to win because, I was watching Hooker's fights in the previously, like in Dustin Poirier, even who else? Paul Felder. I saw his fights prior before that, and compared to Chandler's is always the one pushing the pace. He's the one that puts the pressure on.
Yeah.
Hooker, on the other hand, doesn't put that much pressure, but he is technical, so he circles in and out. Great movement, and Chandler as well. But unfortunately for Hooker, Chandler is the one that put the pressure and, was in and out, side to side, and tried to clip him, and he did. And he was looking for that one punch, and he got it. But I was surprised how long it lasted. I was expecting for a 3-round fight.
Yeah.
But nope. Chandler came in, put a statement, and like Eric said, quite a promo. And, everybody wanted to fight Khabib. He will put a statement for him wanting to fight Khabib, but Khabib was like, you know what? I'm levels above these guys. I already beat these two guys, Poirier, McGregor. Why should I fight him again? They didn't deserve it the second time. So, I don't think Khabib is ever going to hold the lightweight division. So, like Conor did in the previous. But yeah, congratulations to Chandler. I mean, I was going for him anyways. So
yeah. I was going for him too.
So Eric, so Chandler, you guys obviously were cheering. I did not think he'd actually win. Now that he's won, Eric, who do you think he should go after next? Do you think he should fight for the championship against Dustin Poirier or an Oliveira, or do you think he needs one more test before he gets a title shot, being that this was only his first fight in the UFC?
I wouldn't say much of a test, but I don't think it will launch him into the title mix for sure. I did see the post press conference with Dustin Poirier, and he said, "Yeah, I mean, kudos to Chandler for having one hell of a debut, but I don't see him in the mix anytime soon. He's not really interested in fighting Chandler." So, I mean, Poirier has his eye set on something else. I mean, obviously, he'll be going for a trilogy match between Conor. But as far as Chandler goes, I would see him go up against maybe a guy like, Oliveira, or maybe throw him against Tony Ferguson would be another one, too. I don't see Khabib at all. I don't think so. Not after what happened on Saturday night. But as far as contenders go, it had to be Oliveira or Tony. One of those two would be pretty good opponents, and maybe a pretty good test for Ferguson to get back up if Ferguson were to go up against a veteran from Bellator. So I think it would probably be a good dynamic match between those two. But I think everybody can agree maybe Oliveira would be a good contender. But yeah, Chandler, I think there's a little bit more steam. I think there's a little bit more confidence with him compared to Van Askren having a lot of the guys who have one hell of a debut. I think he's the only one of the few guys that has had a really good debut. And even DC said himself, he said that I can't even think of someone who has a debut like Michael Chandler. He can't even think of one. It's the same with me as well. So
yeah,
I think I think his promise is in the UFC is going to be well. And I think just by seeing his performance, it felt like he was fighting for the UFC for a while. Like, it felt like he's one of those longtime guys who's been fighting there in the octagon. He just made that performance look not easy, but it looked like it was just natural to him. Like, it was like he's been there before.
Yeah.
So now he's with the elites, and he beat a top contender like Dan Hooker. So I'm excited to see what Chandler can go is going up against now. Maybe, like I said, Oliveira could be a good one, but that's what I'm sticking to.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I think that unfortunately, taking the Tony Ferguson fight would almost be a step down, because I think Ferguson, he's lost to Gaethje, right? He lost to Oliveira. So if Chandler were to go fight Ferguson, it's almost like I would have projected Dan Hooker to be higher in the rankings than Tony Ferguson, even going into this fight. So I think he has to look up. I think there's only one guy that he realistically faces, and I think it's Justin Gaethje. I think Justin Gaethje is the perfect fight for him, because it's a good step for Gaethje, who lost to Khabib pretty handily, right? He needs to get his confidence back up. Hey, here's another guy that you've been striving to fight, right? Or not striving to fight, but here's another guy that you don't know a lot about. Both these guys need to prove something. If Gaethje can beat Chandler, he puts himself in that title contender race again too. And if Chandler can beat Gaethje, absolutely he would deserve a title shot after that. So I think Gaethje's the only fight to put here, because I think Oliveira is going to fight for the title against Poirier. Realistically, there's nowhere else for Oliveira, or Oliveira is going to fight Khabib. So those are the only two for him. And I think going anywhere below Gaethje would be a step down after the Hooker fight. So it wouldn't make sense for the UFC to do that, barring injuries and stuff like that. So I think it's Gaethje and Chandler absolutely needs to happen next. So I mentioned Poirier. Obviously, guys, let's move to the main event, right? You have Conor McGregor making his long-awaited return. It's over a year since he fought prior in 2020. He's showing up on a yacht. He's driving in Rolls Royces. He looks the part. He's talking the part. He has his kids there, all that stuff. Poirier is the guy that everyone's looking down on the whole week. They're saying, "Oh, well, we all predicted, McGregor was going to win. We had 2 first-round predictions, 1 second-round prediction, and 1 third-round prediction. So we can't talk at all either about thinking that not underestimating Poirier as well. And then the fight starts, and McGregor's, fighting pretty well in the first round. Like I would have gave him the first round, right? 10-9. Obviously, you have the leg checks and the calf kicks. Not the leg checks. McGregor definitely didn't leg check anything. But you had the calf kicks from Dustin Poirier that were in there, kind of underestimated. It was underestimated in that first round. And then you see the second round, Poirier turned around. The leg kicks, according to McGregor, really took a toll on him. He wasn't able to plant and punch like he normally could. Poirier backed him into that corner against the cage and beat the shit out of him and knocked him out. And we have Poirier shocked the world. The Abu Dhabi crowd got quiet. I said, I think Poirier he either needs to fight Khabib or he needs to fight Oliveira, because you don't go from, beating Conor McGregor and beating him in the second round, knocking him out, being the first guy to knock out Conor McGregor, to not fighting for the title. I mean, I realistically think they should just give the title to Dustin Poirier almost, because I think that Oliveira hasn't done enough to be the champion. He still needs to beat one more guy, in my opinion. But Dustin Poirier, there's no one else to beat, right? He'll probably fight Oliveira or Michael Chandler or Justin Gaethje, but he's already beat Gaethje, right? And you could probably say he could beat Chandler and Oliveira. So I think he should be the champion, or he needs to fight for the championship, and it needs to be, versus Oliveira or Khabib, in my opinion. What do you guys think about Poirier next?
I mean, from my opinion, you're right, Nick. I believe the only way I could see Dustin fighting his next opponent for a title, is Charles Oliveira. I mean, look, he went through Kevin Lee, he went through 200 Ferguson. Very impressively dominated both of them, standing up and on the ground, wrestling wise. I mean, the guy's got it all. He's well-rounded fighter, so putting that statement against those two guys, and Dustin Poirier putting a statement on Conor, shows the world like, okay, we're the top two dogs in the world, and I'd rather get that title shot. So that's the most likely title picture I can see, in my opinion.
And what the UFC should have done here, to be honest, was make this for the interim lightweight championship, this fight, because if Conor would have won, nobody would have had a problem, right? Him being the lightweight champion, the interim lightweight. And if Dustin Poirier would have won, he probably would have been annoyed that he was the interim lightweight champion. But then we don't have this standstill in case Oliveira is hurt, because I think Oliveira is the only guy that should be fighting Poirier for that title. If it's Poirier versus Chandler doesn't really get that opportunity yet. And I feel like Poirier should just be the champion right now, and we should be acknowledging him. Now, we don't know. Again, later this week, we'll probably know whether Khabib is retired or not, or if he's going to come back. I mean, we could have this big announcement that Khabib's going to fight Poirier in 4 months, and then we have to restart and talk about this podcast 2 days later, right? But, it's going to be interesting. So, Eric, who do you think Poirier should go after? You said that you thought it should be Oliveira and Chandler. So then what the hell is for Poirier? What do you want for Poirier?
Well, there's a guy out there, saying, tweeting a lot of things about both McGregor and Poirier. And this guy, I think we all know who he is, and that happens to be Stockton's own Nate Diaz. Yeah. So Nate Diaz has been saying a lot of things about these two guys, saying that, I run around in circles with these guys. I'm going to slap around these guys. I'm going to bitch slap these guys, and I'm like, well, Nate, I mean, it's been a while since you've been in the octagon. Last time we saw him was with you and Masvidal. So, I think as a fantasy match, Nate Diaz and Poirier, but
it should have happened in the very beginning too.
Yeah, but realistically, I mean, how you guys are playing it out, how Oliveira should be going after the title, because I mean, there's really no reason for him to go up against Michael Chandler. So I guess they'll probably feed Michael Chandler somebody else in the meantime until Oliveira is going to get his title shot. So yeah, I guess realistically it's going to have to be Oliveira. Not how you guys are putting it out. I mean, I guess I was just putting booking fantasy warfare in this one, but but as far as like me personally, I wouldn't be surprised if Nate Diaz were to come in and try to get something get a taste out of Poirier. But then again, Khabib is going to get pressured by Dana White, because I know Dana White's going to keep on pressuring Khabib to say, come on, get out of retirement. And then Khabib's like, I don't know, man. I don't feel like it. And then Dana White's going to come to the press conference and going to say, I think he's coming back.
No,
and then, yeah. So like, it's one of those things where,
like, be honest with yourself.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where Dana White's going to tell us, I think he's coming back. What do you think, Khabib? And Khabib's like, I'm staying. Like, I'm going to stay retired. And then Dana White's like, I think he said he's coming back. So we're going to get those kind of messages back and forth. So we're never going to know if Khabib's going to come back. So with that being said, realistically, I'm going to have to go with you guys. It's going to be Charles Oliveira. For me personally, why not Nate Diaz? I don't mind Nate Diaz just to have him back.
Eric, here's the thing. Poirier called out Diaz a little bit in the press conference. He said he wanted to knock out, he wanted to beat up Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz, I do not think deserves a lightweight championship fight. I think he would have to win and beat somebody to get a title shot. I think guys like Oliveira and even Michael Chandler would deserve a shot over Nate Diaz. But again, Champ says, hey, I want to fight here and I want to fight Nate Diaz. Nobody's going to complain about that. Like, nobody's going to complain if it's Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier and Nate Diaz beats Poirier for the title. Nobody's going to complain if that happens. It's a lot like McGregor coming back after a year and potentially fighting for a title, after his second fight. So, or after this fight against Poirier, he was won.
Well, who knows how long Conor's going to be out with that injured leg of his, because his leg was dead. So
yeah, he had to walk off with like a one-armed crutch, or so one-leg crutch after. So speaking of Conor, you brought up Conor. What's next for Conor? Now, we've heard Nate Diaz trilogy. He's insistent that Dustin Poirier should fight him a third time. I think that's probably not going to happen. But again, Poirier in his post-fight press conference said that he wouldn't mind a third fight. I don't think he'd want it again right away. But I think that let's say Poirier wins the title against whoever he fights and McGregor wins his next fight, nobody's, again, going to complain about McGregor fighting Poirier. But who do you guys think – I'll throw this out there too. Who do you guys think it could be besides a Nate Diaz or Poirier? Do you think there's anybody that McGregor could fight that's not like one of those trilogy fights, realistically?
I got 1 and 2. So the first one either would be Max Holloway or Tony Ferguson. I mean, if you throw in Tony Ferguson, because those two, had a back and forth, a while back. And, Max Holloway wants to get his loss against him, so why not? I mean, those are the only two I could probably see. Or if not, throw in Gaethje. Gaethje's another possibility as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Eric, do you agree? Do you have anybody else that you have under your mind for McGregor?
Besides Gaethje, I'm gonna
and Ferguson and all the others.
Yeah. Besides those guys, I mean, there's really nobody else as far as those guys go. Khabib is just, I don't think it's going to happen at all.
He doesn't deserve. He doesn't deserve a Khabib. Yeah.
Let's just scrap that out of our brains. Sorry, KJ, but I mean, as far as Conor going, maybe I can't really think of anybody else. I guess just Gaethje. At the moment right now, if I had to pick one, maybe Gaethje would be a good one. Or else he'd go back into boxing, because it looks like he was, doing a lot of he's been doing boxing in the fight between him and Poirier. So I think he's just been too trapped inside that boxing stance. So I think he's been liking a little bit more boxing. So I think Conor I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back into boxing.
Well, here's the thing. What's funny about boxing is, because I heard the stupidest thing I heard this whole week.
Oh boy!
Was that if Manny Pacquiao wasn't able to fight Conor, that Conor could step in there with Errol Spence Jr. That was the dumbest fucking thing I heard all week. I could not believe the gall of whoever said that. Whoever reported that was a possibility. If Conor thinks he can beat Errol Spence Jr., might as well put him in there with Deontay Wilder or Tyson Fury as well. like the same fucking thing could have happened. Okay. You know what? I'll go back to the last podcast. The only way Conor is beating Errol Spence Jr. is with Stipe Miocic's fucking fire hose, bro. That's
right.
the only way. So
Right.
I had to throw that in there. But no. So I mean, here's the thing. Pacquiao is going to fight Ryan Garcia. Mikey Garcia. That's the rumor that's going around.
I heard about that.
There.
Yeah.
So Pacquiao's not going to fight McGregor. I mean, maybe later in the year. But I'll throw out one name that's kind of under the radar that could be. It's a step up from Cerrone, but a fighter that definitely would give Conor enough fits to be able to fight Paul Felder. I think you could throw Paul Felder in there with Conor McGregor, and it gives McGregor's the favorite, but the fight could be awesome, and it could give a reason for Conor to have that step up, and he doesn't have to fight somebody like Gaethje or some just killer that's going to end his career. What's up? Go ahead.
Dan Hooker, even though he recently came off a loss, they both came off recent loss.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Hooker and Conor, I mean, that's another possibility to fight. So, I mean, who knows?
No, who knows? I mean, this is what it's about, right? This is why this division's so awesome, is because
stacked.
I mean, it's stacked. And then you threw in Max Holloway there. The one thing I would disagree with Holloway is, look how good Holloway looked at 145. He did not look good against Poirier when he stepped up to 155, and I think Conor would do the same thing to him. Holloway's built for 145, so I think that would be a mistake on Max Holloway's part. Wait for the title, wait for the winner of Volkanovski and Brian Ortega, and then beat their ass. That's what I'd say. There's no reason Holloway needs to fight before that, but if we get Conor Holloway, I'm not complaining at all. Zero complaints from that. Yeah. But so the next pay-per-view we are going to get is Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns. We will talk about that on a later podcast. I believe the next fight night is Volkov versus Overeem in the heavyweight division. So we'll move away from MMA. Hopefully you guys agree with us. If you don't agree with us and you think there should be somebody else Conor fights, and I know there's going to be some ridiculous comments when I say something like that, because I've seen you guys comment on our Facebook before, and there's some ridiculous comments. But I'll say this. Tell us who you think all these guys should fight. Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor. Say it below. All right, moving into the WWE realm. Yes, we're going to talk about WWE on this podcast because it's the Royal Rumble. We will talk about it every single year, but it's Rumble? Yeah. Eric, why don't you tell the audience what you told me when I told you what the topics were for the podcast this week?
I didn't know there was going to be a Royal Rumble. When's it come? When is it?
It's Sunday. Yeah, it's Sunday.
Oh wow! We're still in the month of January. Wow. Okay.
I'll say this. We're all in the same boat. I'm going to give you guys away. I'm going to pull back the curtain, the fourth wall. We had to do a lot of research for this Royal Rumble podcast. All right, guys. We had to do a lot of going and watching Raw and SmackDown because we don't watch that shit regularly anymore because of how bad the product's been. I'll say this. I'll throw this out there. I really enjoyed SmackDown the last 2 weeks. It's been pretty solid. I think SmackDown's doing it right on Fox and FS1. I think Raw needs to figure it out. Obviously, we're recording the podcast. We know about the new streaming deal with NBC Universal. I am actually going to discuss that with RKJ Man later in the week. I can't give you a day when that's going to be released, but that will be talked about later in the week when there's more details because I don't know how all of our network accounts are going to be transferred to that. So I want to get more information, and me and RKJ Man are going to get on when he's a little bit more freer in the week. He wasn't able to do the podcast today. But so we're going to get into that. So we know all about that and all that stuff. But getting back into WWE, guys, we don't watch this regularly, but we know who should be winning the Royal Rumble. We know who should be in the main events of WrestleMania. So we're going to talk about this. So we've done our research. So we are not just going to be throwing our ass out here and just talking nonsense here. But all right, so there's only been 4 matches announced as far as Wikipedia goes for the Royal Rumble, and that is you have of course the 2 Royal Rumbles, the men's and the women's, and then you have the 2 big championship matches. You have Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens, last man standing match, long-standing rivalry on SmackDown for the last few months, and then you have Drew McIntyre versus everybody's favorite Bill Goldberg at the Royal Rumble. So.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Eric Goldberg's back.
Oh, I guess it was official then. I thought that got scrapped.
No, he's back. He's back. He's been back.
We all wanted to be scrapped. He pushed Drew real hard. Goldberg pushed Drew McIntyre so hard the other day. He gave him COVID. So
That's
McIntyre's been
the
on.
exact reason why I thought the match was gonna be scrapped because he had COVID. So what the
No,
fuck?
he's going to be right now. Actually, I mean, not right now, but I mean, Raw has already happened when we're releasing this podcast on Tuesday morning. McIntyre is going to be live on the show, so he's back. Protocol.
Oh, he's going to be joining us in generals. Sweet.
Yeah. He's coming up next. Yeah.
Cool.
No, I couldn't. WWE was being hard ass and they wouldn't let us interview him. I tried to get Goldberg and he didn't know what a podcast was, so he didn't come on either.
Damn.
All right. So let's just start it. So Goldberg versus Drew McIntyre. We all think that Drew McIntyre should fucking win, right? Like if Goldberg wins, which I know he's gonna, by the way, too. Like he's gonna fucking win. But if Goldberg wins, like I'm gonna be the maddest I ever have in this podcast. Like next week, I'm telling you that right now. Like he cannot win. Drew McIntyre's done nothing wrong. He got his WrestleMania moment stolen from the coronavirus. Couldn't do anything about that, right? He, for some reason, lost to Randy Orton earlier this year in a match and then got the title, whatever. McIntyre has been the prototypical champion. He deserves his moment. There's going to be fans at WrestleMania in Tampa Bay this year. Drew McIntyre absolutely needs to be going into WrestleMania, in the WrestleMania season as the champion. Goldberg, I get it, ratings, if they even fucking exist anymore. I mean, here's the thing. I watched my boy JD from New York today, who's, a lot of you guys hate that guy, but he provides some good information, and he hates Bill Goldberg like me, so I watch his show sometimes. But he stated that the WWE Network never eclipsed 1.5 million subscribers. The ratings for Raw reflect that. They reflect that nobody is watching Monday Night Raw. So, when you look at like Bill Goldberg coming back, did that spike the ratings? No, it didn't. And nobody's going to want to pay for pay-per-views to see Bill Goldberg. It would have made even more sense to have like Brock Lesnar come back for this pay-per-view because Lesnar lost to Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. But we don't want that. We want them to be building guys like SmackDown is with Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. What a story that's been, right? It's a legitimate storyline that I've known about when I watch SmackDown. I'm like, oh, I know what's going on here. Owens has been battling the tribal chief. He's, now they're in the last man standing match and all that stuff. So, Goldberg should not win this match, but we can all agree with that, right? We're just going to move on.
Yeah. It'll be a blasphemy and criminal to have Bill Goldberg beat Drew McIntyre. I mean,
well, we're gonna have to suck it up whether we like it or not because.
No, Eric. No, we're not.
Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah, no, Eric. I disagree.
I'm just speculating on how the crowd's gonna react in this one because they're gonna have a crowd, right?
Oh, WrestleMania? No, Royal Rumble's not having a crowd. No.
No crowd.
No, they're not. Okay,
it's even better.
Oh, jeez. So I'm pretty sure the guys who are there, paid employees, are going to cheer for Goldberg and going to expect us to cheer for his win. So, yeah, that ain't going to happen.
Well, at least the good thing is that they didn't do Goldberg versus Roman Reigns because that's heel versus heel. Nobody's going to cheer for Goldberg over Roman Reigns. With McIntyre, everybody wants that to win. Everybody wants Drew to win. There's nobody that's cheering for Goldberg except Bill Goldberg's son. And I don't care what Bill Goldberg's son cares about. And I hope his dad loses, and I hope he cries after the event.
Damn.
That's what I hope. And my new favorite wrestling child is Brody Lee Jr. All right, that's my favorite child. I don't care about Bill Goldberg's kid anymore. Okay?
That's hurtful.
Bite me. What? I'll have. Yeah. Okay. The only Goldberg match I want to see is Matt Riddle. That's the only thing I want to see. Because Riddle's been shit talking him for years, and they had the confrontation on the backstage show that one time. So that's that.
Is he in the Rumble? Is Riddle in the Rumble?
No.
Yeah, I would see no reason why he wouldn't be. But hey, maybe Goldberg loses and is in the Rumble, and we have that moment where Matt Riddle can kick his head off his shoulders. I don't know. But yeah, so we're not going to extend on this Bill Goldberg bullshit because we have to talk about it because we're a podcast that talks about wrestling. But that's it. We want Drew McIntyre to win. He should win. And then it will make the Royal Rumble more interesting too, because we'll get some legitimate opponents. But moving to the match I also mentioned was the Universal Championship, and that is, or excuse me, not the Universal Championship. This is the Roman Reigns is fighting for the Universal Championship. Excuse me. Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns, last man standing, long-standing story. You guys be okay with Kevin Owens winning this, or do you think because Roman Reigns is the top guy, this should just stand as Roman Reigns still winning? What are your guys' thoughts on that on this match?
Go ahead, Eric.
I mean, I wouldn't mind Kevin Owens winning per se, because that will give Kevin Owens possibly the main event of WrestleMania, and that would be a huge booster to his career. But as far as like if they have an opponent, a special opponent for Roman Reigns for WrestleMania, whoever wins the Royal Rumble or somebody who wins some sort of a challenge in the up and coming pay-per-views, then it's gonna have to be Roman. But personally, if I had to pick one, I'm gonna have to go with Kevin Owens. If he wins, I would like it. I would like for him to win the match and win the Universal title, and that will help him out. Like me personally, that will help Kevin Owens a lot, and I'm rooting for Kevin Owens. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Adam Pearce gets involved in the match, because they've been
good
having
point.
Adam Pearce in the storyline for a couple months now. So it would be a possibility that he would either turn on maybe Kevin Owens, or probably Paul Heyman paid Adam Pearce to turn on Kevin Owens, something like that, or vice versa. Adam Pearce thinks he's helping out, but he causes the match and then causes an accident, and then that makes Roman Reigns win the match. So without a doubt, I think the two guys, I don't mind winning because the storyline is really good. Me personally, it's a win-win for us fans, and I think a win for both of them too. So a lot more interesting than the Goldberg and McIntyre feud, that's for sure. So I think the Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns match,
gold.
Yeah, so at least they're doing that right. So if I had to pick one, for me it's Kevin Owens. I'm just rooting for the guy, kind of like how I rooted for Dustin Poirier going into the McGregor match.
You went for Conor, so.
Well, it was more of like I had to, suck it up, and I had to be realistic. But I was like hoping Dustin, please surprise. Yeah.
I appreciate that, because even Eric was on his stream that you guys watched too, was cheering for Poirier in the fake fight too. He's just actively cheering for Poirier during the fight. So all bias aside, I love that you predicted what actually was going to happen, but then if you would have predicted your guy, you would have won. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's right.
you would actually
I'll
won.
still be cheering for him. Okay, that's it.
By the way, if you guys haven't seen that stream, go watch that stream. Go see that. I did not give away the result in this podcast yet. Eric had a stream where the fight ended in the second round. Go see who won that fight. Actually, a good fake UFC 4 fight. I was entertained.
Virtual.
Yeah, virtual. I was simulation.
Yeah,
That's what it's called. But so I at least think that I think Roman Reigns should win the match. The good thing about Kevin Owens' chances is there's still technically 2 pay-per-views left before WrestleMania. So you still have pay-per-views for Owens to be the champion and defend that championship and give it back to Roman Reigns. I do think that Roman Reigns realistically should be the champion. I think that if he had the chance to fight The Rock, which we all believe is not going to happen now, then you don't have to have the title if you're going to fight Dwayne The Rock Johnson. But without Dwayne The Rock Johnson in the main event, Roman needs to be the champion. So whether he loses it at the Elimination Chamber, Owens I'm speaking of, or he loses it at Fastlane, I'm okay with Owens winning it as long as he's not in the main event of WrestleMania. Now, WWE could do something with Roman Reigns that surprises me, but I think the best thing is to have Reigns versus one of the guys we'll pick for the Royal Rumble match, or somebody else that could just be deserving on the SmackDown roster, or that wins the Elimination Chamber or something like that, face Roman for the championship. Jesse, what are your thoughts? Do you subscribe to what me and Eric are saying? Do you think Kevin Owens should win this match, or do you think 100% Roman Reigns?
I think what I kind of agree with Eric was saying, that he wouldn't be upset if it was it's like a win-win situation, like he said. And also, I mean, Roman Reigns winning and then maybe possibly facing Kevin Owens again in Fastlane. Who knows? Um, I mean, anything could play up, but I'll say Kevin Owens. I mean, he deserves a boost in his career. I mean, he's been doing this for a long time, and it's his time to shine. So, yeah, I mean, I see Roman Reigns possibly retaining it again, possibly. Who knows? Or they might throw in Randy Orton if he wins the Royal Rumble. If he wins. I mean, he's got a mask on now, so he's got like a whole new gig going on. So who knows?
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're following Raw, obviously you have Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss and Randy Orton in a solid storyline with craziness going on. Fire being shot at people's faces, people being lit on fire, Alexa Bliss changing in a second. It's good. That's at least sort of good stuff on Raw. The only good thing on Raw going on right now. But yeah, so that's going to be a good match. I'm actually excited to watch that match. Like I am legitimately turned on the Royal Rumble. When that match is happening, I think that they should that they should entertain us, and I'm okay with either guy winning. And I think both guys have a chance. I think Roman Reigns is going to win the match. I just think that there's enough help. What I see potentially happening here is to save Kevin Owens' character, is to have interference and potentially a new member to this so-called tribe that Roman Reigns has. Apollo Crews getting involved in this match potentially, or somebody else inserting themselves into Roman Reigns' trust, right? And I think Owens, the deck is stacked against him. When you have no disqualifications, anything can happen. That means anybody can intervene. So I do think that Roman will win, but I'm absolutely okay with Kevin Owens winning as long as he drops the title before WrestleMania to Roman Reigns. I'm okay with this storyline extending 1 or 2 more pay-per-views because amazingly WWE stacks 2 more pay-per-views after the Royal Rumble, which I don't understand at all. But all right, so let's move. We'll go to the Women's Royal Rumble first because this is always the one that's a little easier to predict, or at least easier to kind of say who we want to win. I'll start off first. It's hard for me to pick a single woman that I think should win this Royal Rumble. But if I had to pick, I'm gonna go with Alexa Bliss. I think Alexa Bliss needs to win this because of her association with the Fiend. She's been doing a great thing. She's one of the best female characters on WWE. Hey, what have we always said about wrestlers, right? Reinvent your character over the years. Alexa Bliss's character was getting a little bit stale over the last year. She changes it, or whether it's the writing crew's help or not, and now she's in the main event picture. She's literally in a storyline with Randy Orton. Like, come on. I mean, that's good stuff, right? So I think you got Alexa Bliss. That's my pick to win. I'll throw out 2 other names, though, from the SmackDown brand that I think could equally win and could set up a match worthy of, being there, is Bayley and Bianca Belair, who are both in a
dude, those are my picks, too.
Yeah, you got my picks too, man.
I mean, that's the thing, though. It's a little easier to pick it. And the reason I at least pick these, and you guys can agree with this if you want. Alexa Bliss mentioned on Raw, she mentioned that she wanted to fight Asuka for the championship at WrestleMania. Asuka seems to be in fear of her. Asuka got pinned, to the mat 1, 2, 3 by her the other day. And with Asuka being tag team champion, she doesn't necessarily need the title, but I do think that's my reasoning for Alexa Bliss. And for Bayley and Bianca Belair, I just think those are the only 2 legitimate opponents, besides maybe somebody from NXT, wrestling-wise, to fight Sasha Banks. So I think that it needs to be one of those 3 ladies. Do you guys have anybody else that you think could win? Or at least give me the reasons why you guys think those 3 ladies should win the Royal Rumble.
Man, I mean, you picked out the ones that I was going to pick out, especially Alexa Bliss would make sense. But let's also not forget about a year ago, the last 2 contestants of the Royal Rumble were Charlotte Flair and was it Shayna Baszler? Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind if Shayna Baszler were to win the Royal Rumble. I wouldn't mind that too. Obviously, that would help out her career too. Huge boost too. Yeah. But if I'm going to go with somebody else, it's going to be with her, Alexa Bliss, and seeing how they've been improving on Bianca Belair this year. Last year. It looks like Bianca Belair could be the one who could be winning the Royal Rumble. I'm just going with the people, as I said before in the last 2 Royal Rumbles on the podcast. I'm going with the ones who have had improvement over the course of the year of 2020.
Yeah.
So that's just who I'm aiming for and who the company's pushing forward. So that's who I'm going for. I mean, same thing with the men, and I'll get with that in a moment. But as far as like the women's side, it's Belair, Baszler, and Alexa Bliss.
Well, and Jesse, Eric makes a good point about Bianca Belair. So you mentioned, Eric, the last 2 women were Charlotte Flair and Shayna Baszler. Made sense, right? And then, of course, Charlotte had to win. But so Shayna Baszler already has a chance. You know who was 3rd and 4th? It was Bianca Belair. She was right there. And she's been pushed a lot this year, very well and slowly, and is doing it right. Now she's fighting Bayley and doing this stuff with Bayley that was just fighting for the title with Sasha Banks. So I think that's why Bayley. So do you have anybody else, or at least give me the reasoning why you have Alexa Bliss, Bayley, and Bianca Belair possibly win this match?
I mean, look, like Eric said, look, if Bayley on the other hand, last year she didn't compete at all, but the years before that she had her chances, and then this year could possibly be her year. Because she's got to redeem herself, she's got to come back, she's got to whip some ass. So I mean, but another one's Shayna Baszler. Her character has been in much improvement throughout 2020, of course. But unfortunately, she lost to Charlotte, so she's another one that's like an underdog for me. So I'm going for Shayna on this one, but Bayley is another one. So. It's one of those two is going to be last woman standing. So
and here's the thing: when you look at WrestleMania main events, right, for the women, I'm down for Alexa Bliss versus Asuka because Alexa Bliss's character is dope. I'm down for Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks, absolutely. I'm down for Bayley and Sasha Banks again, and I'd be down for Shayna Baszler versus Sasha Banks because we've never seen that before. So all 4 of those I'm down for and I'm okay with. I don't think the women are main eventing WrestleMania this year. Obviously, with Becky Lynch on the pregnancy block right now, she unfortunately doesn't have a chance to win the Royal Rumble. But I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe she'll come back. I don't know. But I think it doesn't work. Yeah, absolutely. No, exactly. And so I think these are the women that need to win this match. I think there's one thing I can say before we get to the men, that there's 2 people I do not want to win the Royal Rumble 100%, and that is Goldberg and Charlotte Flair. They cannot win. Yeah. If Goldberg loses to fucking Drew McIntyre and then wins the Royal Rumble, I might break my TV. Like, legitimately, I might refuse to be on the podcast next week. Like, legitimately, because I'll be so mad. I will get kicked off YouTube. It's just not going to be good. It's not going to be good.
They wouldn't have to stream it on Twitch.
Yeah, well, it'd be easier to stream it on Twitch than it would be the UFC pay-per-view on Saturday. I'll tell you that right now. But okay, so can we all agree we don't want Charlotte to win? We don't want Charlotte to win.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not.
It's too repetitive.
I didn't pick her. I'm not picking her.
Okay, so let's move to the men. I do not love Charlotte. I think Charlotte is highly overrated, and I hope Lacey Evans beats her and just knocks her down the rankings in WWE. And I hope Ric Flair chops.
Do they have a rankings?
No, I'm comparing it to UFC though, and just saying that it's like you see Dan Hooker falling down rankings.
I didn't know. I don't know the things that WWE puts nowadays.
Yeah, I didn't even pay attention that much to WWE, and now,
jeez, they're making so many changes.
Okay, so we got the men's Royal Rumble. Every single year, this thing is dope. Last year's Royal Rumble was one of the best I've ever seen. Obviously, you had Brock Lesnar coming in first, eliminated everybody. It was awesome. Yeah. And it made it entertaining. And then the eventual winner, Drew McIntyre, eliminates him. Perfect storytelling. Great stuff. Nice. So I'll get you guys started. Jesse, I'll let you go first. Name 1, 2, 3 guys, however many you want. Try not to name too many guys because they'll steal them from me and Eric like I just did for you guys for the women. But name 1 or 2 guys. Yeah.
I'll name everybody on the list. Don't worry. I got you. No, here are my picks actually. Jey Uso, okay. What's his name? Big E and Randy Orton. So those are my picks.
Explain it. Explain why you want to pick you want these guys to win.
Big E, my explanation is because even should Drew McIntyre advance over Goldberg, which everybody wants. Who knows what the WWE's creativity is thinking, but Drew McIntyre gave nothing but high praise to Big E, and if he wins, this is a biggest boost of Big E's career. So should he win in advance, I mean, we could possibly see Big E versus Drew McIntyre in the future. So another one of my other picks, Jey Uso, who could also possibly win, and also is a family member and tribe member of Roman Reigns. So he could possibly be facing Roman Reigns in the future, should he win. Randy Orton, I mean, he's a viper, he's a snake, so he's going to come in through. So, I mean, there's a big chance that he's going to go after Drew McIntyre in his title, or Roman Reigns, should he want to change brands. I mean, who knows? Who else unnamed? I think those are the two.
Those are the three. Yeah, those are the three. Eric, I'll give. Let's just all go through our things, and then we'll just talk about what we talked about. Eric, name a couple names. Jesse actually named 3 guys I did not have on my list, so you can say whoever you want.
So
there you go.
I could be number 1 would be AJ Styles, number 2 Daniel Bryan, and number 3, if he does show up in the Royal Rumble, it could be Matt Riddle. So AJ Styles could be reserved for me personally. If he's on Raw, obviously, as a purpose, if he can have his feud with Drew McIntyre, or as we will won't like it, it's gonna have to be AJ Styles versus Goldberg in the future. So that could be serving as AJ Styles. That could actually make us cheer more for AJ Styles. That could actually make us, be behind AJ Styles 100%. So
I'd rather have AJ Styles.
Yeah. So, and Daniel Bryan, I know we're not going to get, The Rock versus Roman Reigns anytime soon. If Roman Reigns does retain his title, keep his title as it is, we'll have that match between him and Daniel Bryan. Obviously, vice versa at the time when Roman Reigns was the, coming up, and he was obviously getting booed, but he was supposed to be like the fan favorite, and Daniel Bryan was like the high fan favorite a couple years ago. If we remember, Daniel Bryan should have won the Royal Rumble back in 2015 or 2016ish, around there, and that was the time when Roman Reigns got the Royal Rumble win. And so, they could play something with that too, so they can have some sort of history about how Daniel Bryan feels like he got robbed from the Royal Rumble, something like that. And number 3, obviously Matt Riddle, what I talked about. Hopefully this could make things a lot easier for those on the Monday Night Raw roster that Goldberg, should Goldberg win the title, good, but he's going to have a guy by the name of Matt Riddle have a feud with him, and they're going to have to play the part of not just only on the scripted side, but they're also going to have to play on the part that is the real life part as well, so they can gel things together and make this feud very interesting between these two within the up and coming months, and it'll make the feud and the match much more spicy and a lot more they'll dive in with the realistic life of what happened. And so I don't think we will be so hard on Goldberg so much, but it will make us want to cheer more for Matt Riddle on this one. So
I just hope they don't botch it up like what they did with Cain Velasquez and Brock Lesnar. I mean,
I'll say this though. You know what, Eric? Eric just changed my mind. Okay. Goldberg can win the WWE Championship. If Matt Riddle won the Royal Rumble, that would be the only reason why I'd be okay with Goldberg winning it. I love that pick. That is the underrated motherfucking pick right there by Eric, saying that if Goldberg wins, Matt Riddle is the only guy we'd want to see him fight.
He can save the Rumble.
Awesome.
Yeah. Matt Riddle can save the Rumble, or Or a
Daniel
surprise
Bryan.
one, Brock Lesnar shows up. Brock Lesnar shows up in the Rumble. He's number 30, and he eliminates everyone. And he can pick either, whether you like it or not, Roman Reigns again, or go up against Goldberg again, or McIntyre.
I'll say this. With the Lesnar one, at least it makes sense with the rumor that we heard a couple months ago that Lesnar might be in the main event. Keith Lee was also in that main event. He's one of my dark horse picks to potentially win. He's not one of my picks, but because of that main event announcement that we heard, potentially Lesnar versus McIntyre versus Lee, I got to throw those guys in there too. So I agreed with Daniel Bryan. That was the only one that I agreed with you guys on or had the same. I'm actually going to throw out 5 more names and explain them really quickly, okay? And Daniel Bryan is by far my favorite. I think Daniel Bryan should absolutely win the championship because him fighting Roman Reigns or him fighting McIntyre is good with me, right? It would make a lot more sense with Roman Reigns, and it could be his retirement match, realistically, because we've heard that he's going to go not be a full-time wrestler probably in the next year. So I think it's perfect for him. I'll throw out this name. John Cena. John Cena comes back in the Royal Rumble. He fights McIntyre for his 17th title. Again, career versus McIntyre. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. You do something with John Cena fight. Nobody's going to complain about John Cena being in a title match for WrestleMania if it's for his 17th thing. And there was confirmation by one of the big news sites from WWE that John Cena will be at WrestleMania. So it's not too far out there that he could be at the Royal Rumble as well. Here are the 4 underrated picks I have. Shinsuke Nakamura. Nakamura, he won a big gauntlet match the other day, or at least looked really good. So he's one of my dark horses. He obviously has never won the big one in WWE before. So I think it'd be great if he could be that champ versus McIntyre or Roman Reigns. Cesaro's looked good last week. We've all wanted Cesaro to get that push. So him winning it would be great. You know, we all thought also that Sheamus would be fighting Drew McIntyre right now instead of Goldberg. You have that Scotland-Ireland rivalry you could do with Drew McIntyre. That's dark horse pick. And then this is the one I waited for at the end because I knew Eric would like this one. There are strong rumors that Aleister Black, they are building something for him. They're the reason he's not on TV is they're building something from big. So, dark horse to win the Royal Rumble, Aleister Black as well. But my top 2 are John Cena and Daniel Bryan. I think those are the 2 guys I could see winning this Royal Rumble legitimately. And Daniel Bryan would fight Roman Reigns, and John Cena would fight Drew McIntyre. And so, okay, now we obviously have The Fiend. None of us said The Fiend. Why is it that we did not say The Fiend?
We seem too much. I have no idea.
I think they'll probably say something for him. Maybe help out Alexa Bliss in the Women's Royal Rumble. Probably have her win it with Bray Wyatt. By the help of Bray Wyatt, could do that. Or he'll get involved in the Rumble, but he'll come after Randy Orton, and he'll probably eliminate Randy Orton. So that's why I didn't have Randy Orton in my pick, because Bray Wyatt is lurking in the shadows, and possibly Bray Wyatt he just wants Randy Orton all to himself. That's what I think. Yeah.
So Jesse, why didn't you have The Fiend in there to win? You had Randy Orton winning the Royal Rumble, so I can understand why that you have Randy Orton winning over. But why not The Fiend with the way his character is portrayed?
Damn, I have no idea why actually, but I mean, but the way that his character's been in, his feud with with the Fiend, then yeah, I mean, it's possibly that the Fiend might interrupt and get Randy eliminated and possibly face him, possibly like someone around WrestleMania or something like that. So I mean, who knows?
So you're saying that you don't know why you didn't pick The Fiend?
I had no idea. I haven't been paying attention to their stuff.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I'll say this. I did not say The Fiend. I just think that his character is lost too many times. Like, he can't keep losing and then all of a sudden win the Rumble. I know there's a lot of other guys that do that in WWE too, and that we predicted, like Cesaro and Nakamura. But the difference is Bray Wyatt is not being pushed as a winner right now. He's being pushed as a guy that lost to Randy Orton, got set on fire, and is in this, head-spinning storyline. But again, I don't see, like, Fiend winning the Royal Rumble helps that storyline with Randy Orton. Like, I think the storyline with Randy Orton needs to continue one more pay-per-view, and then you move off of it. Maybe the Fiend wins the Elimination Chamber or something like that. If we have a SmackDown superstar win the Royal Rumble, you have the Raw Elimination Chamber and have the Fiend win it there. But I don't think he wins the Royal Rumble because I think him and Randy Orton are tied too much in his storyline to have him win. So that's at least my reasoning. But yeah. So guys, I swear to God, that podcast flew by.
Yeah.
Flew by.
Without a doubt, man.
Yeah.
Actually,
So. Yeah, no, that was a good time. I mean, so we will again. I will be back with RKJ Man later this week. We're going to be talking. I want to get his Royal Rumble picks. I want him to talk about WWE product because I know he pays attention to it from the side, and I also want to get his thoughts on the streaming deal that WWE just made with NBC Universal that was worth $1 billion with a B. Craziness, and probably not good for WWE storyline telling in the future, but. Nonetheless, we'll be back with that. Again, thank you for everybody watching our stuff last week. Go watch it again if you haven't seen Eric's stream. Also, I'll say this too. The UFC show that we did was not just McGregor predictions. There was a lot of other stuff that we projected for the next couple of pay-per-views. So that's still watchable today, and it will be it's in the description right now along with his Eric's UFC 4 simulation. So go check all that stuff out. But yeah, Eric, why don't you end off this podcast today? Get us going home.
Remember, like, comment, subscribe. But as always, raise a glass in the sky and salute the Ring Generals.